While my wife was away on a business trip, the kids and I decided to surprise her, but...
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
Dad, how long will Mom be in Boston? Asked Irene, a 12-year-old girl with softly curled brown hair, while folding napkins. 7 days. She said she has to work with an important partner. Big deal, Julian replied, trying to keep any doubt out of his voice. He lightly twisted the wedding ring on his left hand, eyes glancing toward the phone on the table, where a new message from Claudia had just appeared, arrived at the hotel. Exhausted. Don't call. G9. She must be super busy, Ethan chimed in, eyes still fixed on the cake sitting on the table. But she'd be happy if I brought her cake, right? Julian let out a soft chuckle and nodded. Exactly. She'll be really surprised. All of us showing up with cake and flowers, recording a video to send her. A perfect little morale booster. He looked at his 2 kids and pretended to be working on a schedule. But the plan had already been in place since that afternoon. Claudia had said she'd be away for a week on business, just when the kids happened to be on break. A rare chance for the 3 of them to do something meaningful together. He had booked a room 3 floors below Claudia's, in the same upscale hotel in the downtown loop where she said she'd be staying with her company's partner representative. But Dad, Irene hesitated, Mom doesn't really like surprises. Julian paused for a moment. That's true. But this time is different. We're not interrupting anything. We'll just drop by for a minute, record the video, give her the gifts, and then leave. No bother. Will she laugh? Ethan tilted his head. She might even cry, Julian said with a smile. From emotion. The kitchen glowed with soft yellow lights, wooden chairs creaking as the 2 kids left the table to gather things for tomorrow's surprise trip. Julian checked the time. Almost 10 p.m. He grabbed his phone, opened the rideshare app, and booked Acela train tickets for 7 a.m. The plan was for all 3 to arrive at the hotel around noon. No room for mistakes. In his mind, it all made sense. He loved his wife. Claudia was a smart, driven woman though sometimes distant. As the CEO of Green Delights, a health-conscious food chain, she was always busy from early morning till late at night. But Julian never complained. He had once turned down a promotion to department head at a major construction firm just to have more time for the kids and to support her. That kind of sacrifice, he believed, was just part of a modern family. Dad, I'm putting the cake in the fridge, okay? I'll carry it tomorrow, Ethan called from the living room. Yep, make sure the frosting doesn't melt. Irene picked up the little camcorder her dad had used to record their Sedona trip last year and smiled lightly. I'm going to film Mom's surprised reaction. I'll be sad if she doesn't scream. Julian nodded, but in his eyes was something that couldn't be named, not happiness, but a deep yearning for validation, a desperate attempt to hold on to something that felt like it was slipping away, though he didn't dare face it. The next morning, the 3 of them boarded the early train. Julian chose standard class seats by the window. Ethan clutched the cake box, dozing off now and then. Irene listened to music while writing a short intro for the surprise video. Julian opened his phone and reread Claudia's last message. Busy all day, meetings from 8 a.m. won't be able to answer calls. Email if needed. Quietly, he moved the message to a private folder, then opened their family photo album. All the recent pictures had been taken by him, outings, park trips, dinners. Claudia's photos were mostly of her turned to the side, talking on the phone, typing on her laptop, or smiling politely. None felt truly intimate. Dad, Irene said softly, are you sure Mom's at that hotel? Yeah. She texted me. Room 802 on the 8th floor. Julian repeated the info. He'd checked the booking system under Claudia's company name. Are we even allowed to go to her room? Ethan asked, eyes open now. No. We'll just knock. If she's in, we'll give her the cake, flowers, film the video. If not, we leave the gifts and go. Ethan nodded. Irene looked at her dad and suddenly asked, "Do you remember Mom's birthday last year? You made that 15-minute video." "Yeah." "Didn't she cry?" "No. She said it was kind of too much." Julian gave a small laugh, but his throat tightened. He turned to look out the window, where fields were zipping past in a blur. A strange, uneasy feeling stirred in his chest, as if everything was slipping beyond his reach. They arrived in Boston around noon and took a cab to the Blue Avenue Hotel, a sleek 12-story glass building in the heart of downtown Loop. The front desk clerk, a young man named Ryan with deep brown eyes, looked at the trio with slight surprise when Julian asked to book another room. "It's my wife's birthday," Julian said quietly. "We're trying to surprise her." Ryan smiled and checked the system. "Ms. Claudia Bennett is currently staying in room 802. I'll arrange room 805 for you. That floor is fairly quiet." "Thanks." Ryan hesitated slightly, then just nodded. He didn't ask anything else, but there was a faint look in his eyes like someone who'd witnessed many strange things before. Room 805 was clean and bright. Julian opened the curtains to let the sunlight flood in. Irene laid out the flowers on the table. Ethan held the cake tightly, nervous about dropping it. The camera was charged and ready. "Should I start from the hallway?" Irene asked. "Yeah. Start filming as we walk toward Mom's door. Make it natural but don't scare her." Ethan took a picture of the bouquet with his phone. Julian checked everything once more, then looked at his two kids. "Ready?" Both nodded. Julian took a deep breath. His heart was pounding not with joy or excitement, but as if warning him of something. "Let's go." He opened the door. The three walked into the quiet hallway, dimly lit in warm yellow hues, leading them towards something irreversible. Their footsteps fell softly on the carpeted floor of the 8th floor. Irene held the camera, her hands a little shaky but her eyes focused. Ethan walked carefully, holding the cake box like it was treasure. Julian followed behind, his eyes occasionally scanning the room numbers. Room 802. The door was slightly ajar, soft light seeping through the crack. "Dad," Irene whispered, pointing. "The door's not locked." Julian paused. A few scenarios flashed through his mind. Claudia forgot to lock it. She's inside with someone. A cleaner. He bent down and whispered, "Maybe she's sleeping. We'll just knock gently." "Dad, you film." Irene handed him the camera. "If Mom sees me recording, she'll be embarrassed." Julian nodded. He switched the camera to silent mode. Clutching it tightly, he took a breath and raised his hand to knock. 3 soft knocks. No answer. He gently turned the handle. The door swung open. What appeared before them unrolled slowly, like a painful slow-motion movie no one wanted to watch. Inside, soft bedside lamp light fell on rumpled bed sheets. A strange pair of men's leather shoes lay on the floor near the window. A thick, unfamiliar cologne filled Julian's nose. On the bed, Claudia, her upper body uncovered, lay turned on her side, her messy hair draped across the pillow, one arm thrown around the shoulders of an unfamiliar man. Both were asleep, the blanket half slipped, exposing bare skin raw, shameless. A choked sound escaped not from Julian, but from Irene. "Mom." Claudia stirred slightly but didn't wake. The unfamiliar man had short dark hair, broad shoulders, and a body clearly not part of their family. He didn't move. "Who is that guy?" "Dad." "Why's Mom hugging him?" Ethan asked, puzzled. Julian tightened his grip on the camcorder. He said nothing. His eyes froze, no anger, no words, just a hollow stare. Slowly, he turned and gently ushered his children away from the scene. No yelling. No accusations. No words at all. Irene turned her face away, tears welling but not falling. She hugged Ethan and steadied the tilting cake box from his trembling hands. Julian closed the door behind them, casting one last glance back at room 802. The camera was still recording. No one turned it off. The footage like blades cut through his chest without blood, just devastation. Back at the lobby, Ryan looked at the three with confusion as they returned. "We won't be staying," Julian said quickly. "Is everything all right, sir?" Julian shook his head. "Just change of plans." Ryan nodded and motioned for a taxi. Irene kept her head down, arms wrapped around the camera. Ethan stared silently at the cake, a crack slicing through the melted frosting. No one spoke. No one blamed Claudia. But the pain bled out from within, wordless and irreparable. On the train back to Chicago, silence blanketed them. Irene didn't listen to music. Ethan didn't ask questions. Julian just sat still, hands resting on his knees. To other passengers, they looked like an ordinary dad with his two kids coming home from a trip. But no one could see what had died inside them. "Dad," Ethan whispered, "who was that man?" Julian looked at his son. A 9-year-old boy. Still far too young to grasp betrayal, deception, and soul-deep pain. "I don't know," he answered. "Maybe just a coworker." "Then why was Mom hugging him? Like she hugged you on her birthday?" Irene cut in, "Be quiet, Ethan." Ethan looked down. Julian didn't intervene. He just stared out the window. The wind picked up, dark clouds gathering. Something had passed the point of no return. When they arrived in Chicago, the three of them went home. Julian told the kids to take a shower and rest. He turned on his computer and plugged in the camcorder. The footage they'd recorded was all there, clear and intact. He didn't watch it. He simply transferred the file to a separate USB drive, sealed it in an envelope. The next morning, he got up early. Made breakfast like usual. No toast, just milk and cereal. Irene ate silently. Ethan didn't ask anything. Julian drove the kids to their maternal grandmother's house, Teresa. She looked at her son's face and was about to ask something, but he just shook his head. "Can you watch them for a few days, Mom? I've got something at work." Teresa frowned slightly but nodded. Before leaving, Julian bent down and kissed both children on the forehead. "I'll be back soon." Irene looked up at him, suspicious. But she nodded. That afternoon, Julian returned home alone. The house felt cold. The family portraits on the wall seemed to glare at him in disgust. He placed the envelope with the USB on his desk and wrote on it. "To Claudia. Thank you for everything." He left it neatly on the table, then walked out. An hour later, his phone rang. The caller, Claudia. He didn't answer. 10 minutes after that, there was loud banging on the door. It was Claudia. "Julian. Are you in there? Open the door." Julian stood behind the door, silent. "Are you insane?" she yelled. "You broke into my hotel, dragged our kids there to film some made-up crap, and now you're spreading lies? Are you trying to lose custody?" Still, Julian said nothing. "Fine. You chose this. Don't expect me to be civil anymore." The sharp clack of high heels echoed on the floor, fading away. Only terrifying silence remained. The next morning, the air in the house felt suffocating. Julian sat still at the dining table, a cup of cold coffee in front of him. He hadn't slept all night, eyes bloodshot, but not a single tear had fallen. The images in his head played on a loop, the video he had recorded yesterday of Claudia and that strange man in the hotel bed. Flesh. Silence. A fatal wound with no knife. The doorbell rang. Julian didn't move. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. "Open the door. Police." A deep voice rang from outside the gate. "Open the door." "Police." Julian slowly stood up and opened it. Standing before him was a man in uniform, the nameplate gleaming under the morning sun, Xavier Martin. "Mr. Julian Walker?" the officer asked, his voice firm and cold. "Yes." "What's going on?" "I have a court summons from the city of Chicago. Based on a complaint filed by your wife, Mrs. Claudia Bennett. Please come with us immediately." Julian frowned. "Complaint? About what?" Xavier handed him a folder. "Infidelity. Emotional abuse of minors. There is evidence of inappropriate conduct in the workplace." "Me?" Julian gasped. "That's impossible. We're not here to argue. If you cooperate, this will go faster." Julian looked at the officer. His face was composed, but his eyes had already cracked. He turned back for one last look at his house, then followed them to the car. In the back seat of the patrol car, Julian sat stiffly, hands clenched, eyes staring out the window as though trying to escape reality. Officer Xavier occasionally glanced at him through the rearview mirror, expression unreadable. "I don't understand," Julian finally said, his voice tight. "What is she accusing me of?" Xavier didn't turn around. "The court will explain. I'm just following protocol." "She cheated. I have proof. I recorded it." "Mr. Walker," Xavier interrupted, his tone sharp. "Be careful what you say. It may be entered into record." Julian clenched his jaw, his fists turning white. He had the evidence, and yet he was the one being accused. A bare interrogation room, the light above so stark it made one feel exposed before hundreds of unseen eyes. Julian sat across from his attorney Anna Morales, recommended by an old friend. Anna flipped through the files, her brow furrowing. "We're in a weak position, Julian." "I didn't do anything wrong," he murmured. Anna pushed a document toward him. She submitted texts, screenshots, witness statements from your company, all suggesting you're having an affair with your new secretary, a woman named Laura Jenkins. There are also a few suggestive emails that appear edited. That's all fabricated. Julian stood up abruptly. "I've barely interacted with Laura. She's only been there 2 months. And I never sent any messages like that." Anna sighed. "Calm down. I believe you. But in court, evidence is everything." "What about the video?" "I have proof Claudia was cheating. I recorded her with." "You recorded it?" Anna's eyes widened. "You have that footage?" Julian nodded. "I left it on the desk yesterday, in an envelope for Claudia." Anna cursed under her breath. "Jesus! You handed the evidence to the opposing party?" "I wasn't thinking clearly." Anna rubbed her temples. "Let's just hope she hasn't destroyed it yet." Chicago City Court. A small courtroom, but cold and suffocating. The white-gray walls and dim lighting added to the heaviness in the air. On the bench sat Judge Elena Brooks, gray hair tied neatly back, flipping through the case files. Claudia sat across from Julian. She wore a refined gray dress, her hair in a neat bun, makeup subtle but precise. No trace of the exposed woman from yesterday. Now she was a model executive, a heartbroken mother, exactly the image she wanted to present. Next to her sat her attorney, Charles Morgan, in his 50s, cold face and calculating eyes. Julian's lawyer, Anna Morales, was younger, less experienced, but her gaze was sharp. Judge Brooks began. "This case has been brought forward by the plaintiff, Mrs. Claudia Bennett, accusing the defendant, Mr. Julian Walker, of infidelity, psychological abuse of minors, and inappropriate behavior in the workplace. The court is convening on an emergency basis to determine temporary custody of the children pending investigation." Julian's throat tightened. "I object. I have a video. I have proof Claudia is the one who." Silence. Judge Brooks interrupted. All evidence will be reviewed in due time. Now we proceed with the plaintiff's statement. Claudia stood, clutching a tissue. Her voice trembled just enough to be convincing. I never thought I'd end up here. But for the sake of my children, I have no choice. Her teary eyes turned to the judge, then slid past Julian as if he were a stranger. For nearly a year, my husband has been having an affair with his secretary, Ms. Laura Jenkins. I kept quiet. But yesterday, he brought our 2 children to the hotel where I was working, filmed a fabricated video, broke into my room, secretly recorded me and a colleague, and then sent threatening messages. Julian shot up. Lies. She's the one who. Order, Mr. Walker. Judge Brooks banged her gavel. One more outburst, and I will have you removed from this hearing. Julian sat back down, hands trembling. Claudia continued, now in a softer tone. My children are severely affected. Irene has trouble sleeping. Ethan is terrified every time his father raises his voice. I'm asking the court to temporarily suspend his custody rights, at least until the investigation is complete. Charles, Claudia's attorney, submitted a folder, screenshots of alleged texts between Julian and another woman, edited, a doctored photo of him hugging a woman on a beach, and an audio clip cut to include only the line, "Don't tell my wife." Julian turned to Anna, stunned. That's photoshopped. I haven't even been to a beach this year. Anna frowned, whispering, I know, but we can't disprove it right away. We need time to analyze the original sources. But she has the video. Why aren't we using what I recorded? We haven't submitted a copy. At this point, Claudia submitted it first, with a statement claiming you fabricated the footage to slander her. Julian felt like he was about to explode. She's twisting the truth. I'm the one who was betrayed. Judge Brooks banged the gavel again. Temporary custody of the children is granted to the mother, Ms. Claudia Bennett, for a period of 3 months to ensure emotional stability for the minors. Additionally, the joint bank accounts will be frozen to prevent disputes over assets pending full investigation. No. What are my kids going to think living with someone who betrayed their father? I didn't do anything wrong. Julian shouted, but his voice cracked, swallowed by the cold courtroom. Claudia bowed her head, pretending to dab at her tears. Charles leaned in and whispered something, and Claudia nodded subtly, the corners of her lips curling into a faint, triumphant smile just long enough for Julian to see it. A cold, victorious smirk. After the hearing, Julian slumped down onto a stone bench in the hallway. His hands trembled. Anna sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. I'll file the appeal right away. But we'll need time. How much time? Could be weeks. Maybe more. We have to analyze the evidence, run forensics on the doctored images, validate the video contents. But what? Anna looked him in the eyes. If she has any media influence, then in the public's eyes, you've already lost. Julian gave a bitter laugh. I have evidence. I have the truth. And now I have to live like I'm the criminal. Courts don't rule on emotion, Julian. They rule on documentation, timing, and the psychological well-being of children. He stood up, staring at the ceiling as if trying to keep himself from slamming his head into the wall. He couldn't understand. Why was the betrayer standing in the victim's place? Why did society trust a teary voice more than a video of the truth? His phone rang. It was his mother, Teresa. Irene won't eat. Ethan's asking for you. Julian dropped down on the steps. I can't come back tonight. Just hold them close, Mom. I'll be okay. She hesitated. Claudia called me. Said she's coming tomorrow to take the kids. Julian gripped the phone tightly, his teeth clenched so hard they ground together. Don't give them to her. Even if she has a court order, keep the kids with you. I'll handle the rest. But I'm afraid, the police. Trust me. If you hand them over, I'll never forgive you. She didn't reply. A long silence followed. Julian walked slowly home. The door was still slightly open, as if everything in his life was now waiting for someone to come in and ruin what little remained. He stepped into the living room. The wedding photo of him and Claudia still hung on the wall. He reached up to take it down but stopped. What was the point? The truth wasn't in a frame. It was in people's hearts. 2 days later, Ana Morales arrived at Julian's house around noon. She brought a laptop and several files from a confidential source. There's something that might help us start to turn things around, Ana said quickly as she opened the laptop and pulled out a document. Julian collapsed onto the couch, unshaven and hollow-eyed. If it's more doctored photos or fake audio, don't bother. It's not, Ana said, lowering her voice. It's a statement from someone you know. A statement? The man in the hotel room, Evan Brooks. Claudia's direct subordinate at Green Delights. The name made Julian stiffen. Evan, what's his role in this? Ana laid a printed email draft in front of him. This is an internal company leak, a draft email Claudia sent to her private lawyer, outlining her divorce strategy. I need Evan to assist with the setup, as long as he's not fully aware of the ultimate goal. Frame it as a plan to help me separate from a toxic husband and gain media advantage. If necessary, increase the bonus once it's done. Julian sat frozen. She hired him to stage it. Ana nodded. We haven't spoken to Evan directly yet, but internal sources confirmed Claudia called him into a private meeting 3 weeks before the Boston trip. Right after, he got a sudden raise and an advance bonus. Julian slammed his fist into the armrest. She orchestrated the whole damn thing, and cast me as a cheating, abusive father. That's not all, Ana said, pulling out a call log. Claudia also contacted a crisis PR specialist named Lauren Parker. They planned a whole campaign, teary videos, strategic media posts, framing her as the strong single mom. She calculated everything. Not just calculated, Ana said, eyes fixed on the screen. She manipulated. She knows the law, public psychology, how to steer public opinion with emotion. Julian stared at the monitor, rage choking him. This wasn't just betrayal. This was destruction by design. So, Evan's an accomplice. Technically, he might just be a pawn. We have no proof he knew the full scheme. But under pressure, he might talk. Julian muttered, I have to find him. Talk to him face to face. I want to look him in the eye and ask why. Ana looked cautious. I don't recommend doing that alone. No. I'm not going to hit him. I just need the truth. That afternoon, Julian went to Green Delights. The receptionist initially refused to let him in, but when Julian said, I'm Claudia Bennett's husband, the woman froze. Mr. Evan is on the 3rd floor, side conference room. But no one's allowed in without an appointment. I don't need one. Julian strode upstairs, ignoring the receptionist calling after him. The conference room door was unlocked. He pushed it open. Evan was inside alone, standing in front of a projector mid-presentation. He jumped when he saw Julian. I didn't know you were. Hello, Evan, Julian said, oddly calm. Sit down. I'm in a meeting. There's no one here but you and me. We're going to talk. About Boston. Evan's face went pale. I was just doing what I was asked. What request? Lying in bed with my wife, pretending to be asleep while I walked in with our 2 kids. That was a work favor. Evan bit his lip. I didn't know it would go that far. Claudia told me, just to stage a situation that would make you suspicious. That's all. I didn't know she'd film it, or accuse you of all that. How much did she pay you? Not a lot. A bonus. And a promise she'd sign my full-time contract next year. I need this job. I send money to my mom back in Tucson. You realize I lost custody. I got publicly trashed. Suspended from work. Branded an abuser. Evan stared at the floor. I'm sorry. I didn't expect it to. No. Don't apologize to me. Testify in court. What? Stand for the truth. If you still have a conscience. Evan shook his head repeatedly. If I do that, I'll lose everything. Claudia will fire me. She might also land you in jail for being complicit in fabricating evidence. But if you testify, I'll ask the court to go easy on you. Evan sat in silence. The room grew thick with tension. Give me time, he finally whispered. I'll think about it. That evening, Julian returned home and sat silently at the kitchen table. His mother called. Claudia came and took the kids. Court order. I couldn't stop her. Julian closed his eyes. He didn't cry. But his shoulders trembled. Did you see how they looked? They weren't happy. Irene looked at Claudia like she was a stranger. Ethan asked me, did Dad do something bad? Why is he alone? Julian whispered, I won't let this go on much longer. The next morning, Anna called. Evan just came to my office. He says he's willing to testify but he wants legal protection. Julian said only one thing, move fast. I can't let the kids stay with her another day. Just 2 days after Evan agreed to cooperate, Julian realized he was no longer in control of the narrative. Social media had flooded with photos and posts about him but none told the truth. On a popular parenting forum, a user named BraveMom1984, later confirmed to be Claudia, posted a nearly 3-page long message. I don't want to make a big deal, but being a single mom is never easy. I endured a cheating husband who had an affair with his secretary in our office, who yelled at our kids until they cried every night. When I decided to leave, he emotionally abused all 3 of us. All I ever asked for was peace. If you're a parent, you'll understand me. The post went viral. Tens of thousands of shares. The comments section exploded with messages like, what a horrible man. You're so strong. Keep the kids. Just another engineer who thinks being smart means he can get away with anything. The first message Julian received was from Louis Rogers, a college classmate and now lead engineer in Galveston. Julian, what's going on? I saw the article. I couldn't believe it. Before he could reply, another email came in from the company's HR department. Effective November 12, Mr. Julian Walker is suspended from his duties pending an internal investigation regarding alleged misconduct and reputational risk to the company. Julian gripped his phone and dialed Martha Reed, the project manager on his team. The phone rang. Her voice came on, cautious. Julian. Martha, did you see the news? I did, but I didn't believe it right away. I know you're not that kind of person. Thank you. But I've been suspended. It might just be temporary. I'll speak to the director, ask them to wait for an official conclusion. Claudia staged all of it. She had people edit photos, cut videos. I'm gathering evidence. Why would she do that? Is it, for the kids? No. For her reputation. For custody. And for the image of the perfect victim. Martha sighed. I didn't think she was that kind of person. You've never seen her stand in front of a mirror and practice smiling while lying. That evening, Julian received a call from an unknown number. He answered. Hello, this is Lily Adams, reporter for NBC News. I'm covering your case and that of your your current wife, Ms. Claudia Bennett. I'd like to confirm a few details before our segment, A Resilient Mother, airs. Julian clenched his phone. What show? We've scheduled an interview with Claudia tomorrow morning. She was very emotional, recounting her hardship. Would you like to respond? Do you know she's lying? Do you have proof? Yes. But I haven't had a chance to submit it, court's still processing it. Then for now, the public only has her side. If you stay silent, that's your choice. But I think, you should brace yourself. The call ended. Julian sat in the dark. No kids' laughter. No dinner. Just waves of news crashing through, slicing every corner of his life like knives. The next morning, as Lily said, the TV aired a live broadcast of Claudia in the studio, wearing a white sweater, softly made up, her voice hoarse with emotion. I used to love him. Very much, she said, eyes glistening. But when someone betrays you and frightens your children, I knew I had to act. Not for me, but for Irene and Ethan. The host nodded sympathetically. Do you forgive him? Claudia smiled faintly and looked down. I don't blame him. I just want to protect my children. The chat below the broadcast flooded with heart emojis and thousands of supportive comments. Julian turned off the TV and threw the remote into the corner. He walked to his study and opened his laptop. His inbox was flooded with emails from strangers. I used to think you were a model engineer. Now you disgust me. Get out of the industry. Don't taint our profession. Men like you belong in jail. He quietly logged out, then deleted his Facebook account. A photo of him holding Ethan at the park had been cropped and turned into a meme, wife beater smiling like he's a hero. The more he looked, the clearer it became how fast the world can turn on you. That afternoon, his mother Teresa called, her voice trembling. Son, a group of parents came to the house. They said they don't want you near their children at school. Julian gritted his teeth. What did they say? They said Claudia is brave. And you are the shame of the community. He hung up and collapsed onto the floor. A wave of despair crashed over him. Everything was spiraling beyond control. That night, Julian drank half a bottle of liquor, his first in 10 years, since marrying Claudia. His head spun, heart pounding not from the alcohol, but from humiliation. He opened the hotel video. Claudia was sleeping. Evan lay beside her. Neither had a shred of clothing. His 2 children stood in the doorway, confused, uncomprehending. Julian watched it again. And again. The third time, his finger hovered over the delete button. What's the point, he murmured. This whole system doesn't care about truth. His hand moved toward the trash icon. Then he remembered that night after they returned from Boston when he had talked to Irene. You're still awake? He'd asked, his voice rough. I can't sleep. She had sat next to him, eyes fixed on the screen. I remember that video. Julian turned to her slowly. Do you believe me? Irene nodded without hesitation. I remember Mom lying about it before the trip. What do you mean? The day before she went to Boston, she told me, if Dad follows, just pretend you didn't see anything. I didn't understand it then. But now I think, she planned it. Julian looked at his daughter. Her eyes were clear, but there was something firm in them. It wasn't hope. But it was light. His house had become a corpse. Light from the window couldn't pierce the thick curtains he'd drawn days ago. The kitchen was cold. The dining table covered in dust. The wall clock had stopped at 2:12. No one had bothered to replace the battery. Julian sat on the living room floor, back against the sofa, phone in hand but screen off. He had no idea how long he'd been there. Could have been 3 hours. Could have been 3 days. Time had disintegrated. He didn't cry. Didn't scream. He just felt empty. Next to him was the USB with the hotel video. He'd plugged it in once, watched it once, and left it there like a guardian of his pain. Once, he considered posting the video online, but then thought, what's the use? Who would believe it? The doorbell rang. Julian didn't move. A while later, the sound of keys turning. His mother Teresa, using the spare she'd kept since he was single. "Julian," she called softly, worry thick in her voice. "Are you home?" "In here," he answered without lifting his head. She walked in and froze at the sight. Her son, once steady atop steel beams, now curled up on the floor, eyes hollow. "Have you eaten?" He shook his head. "I brought soup." "Eat something. Then shower. You look like a ghost." He didn't budge. She sat beside him, placed a hand on his shoulder. "I spoke to Anna yesterday. She said she's finishing the file." Evan officially signed the witness statement. "It's too late, Mom." "No. There's still time. You have to believe." Julian turned to her, eyes dry and cracked. "Believe in what? That the justice system will magically wake up? That society will apologize for slandering me all month? That my kids won't see me as a criminal anymore? No. Believe that you're still their father. And that can still be restored." He let out a dry laugh. "I've lost everything. My job, my name, my kids, even my will to live. You still have Irene. Ethan. Me." Julian said nothing. But his eyes flickered. That night, Julian sat alone in his study. The screen was frozen on the still image of Claudia and Evan in bed. No one wanted to see that. But he couldn't look away. Each viewing was self-inflicted punishment. His phone vibrated. A message from Anna Morales. "Breaking news. Claudia went on air again, this time implying you have psychological issues. I've requested an emergency protection order in case she tries to use it to permanently sever father-child contact. Filing tomorrow. Hang in there." He read the message and set the phone down. A suffocating wave hit him. She wouldn't stop. She'd never stop, not until he was erased from their children's lives. Early dawn. Julian quietly stood up. He entered the bedroom. On the shelf were old folders, Ethan's drawings, a poem Irene wrote in 3rd grade, a family photo from Savannah. Each item a fragment of what he once called happiness. He took out a blank sheet of paper. He wrote, "If anyone reads this, please understand, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just can't take it anymore. I'm exhausted from being turned into someone I'm not. I love my children. I never hit my wife. I never cheated. I just loved the wrong way." He placed the letter on the desk, then walked toward the medicine cabinet. His hand trembled as he opened the drawer of sleeping pills. He reached for the bottle. Then stopped. In the dark, the screen of his computer still glowed. A ping sounded. A message from Irene, sent via their sync tablet. "I can't sleep. Ethan either. Just wanted to say. I believe you, Dad. And I'm waiting to come home." Julian collapsed into the chair, the pill bottle slipping from his hand. He stared at the screen like it held his final breath. Not hope. Just an unbroken thread. The next morning, he called Anna. "Anna, send everything. Blow this wide open. At all costs." Anna's voice was calm. "I'm already on it. Evan signed the notarized affidavit this morning. I'll include everything, emails, bonus records, the PR strategy. We even have an audio clip of Claudia on the phone with her media handler saying, 'Make me look as much like a widow as possible.'" Julian nodded, his voice lower, firmer. "This time. I won't back down. Are you ready?" Anna Morales asked as Julian stepped into the law office that morning. He nodded. His eyes were calm but razor sharp. No longer the man who trembled in the dark, but a father who had fallen only to rise again, fueled by the only thing he had left, the truth. I submitted everything to the court this morning, Anna said, handing him a copy of the case file. Includes Evan Brooks's notarized statement, an internal meeting recording where Claudia talks about staging the hotel scene, and the email outlining the fabricated media plan. The hotel video? Julian asked. Attached on a secure drive, delivered directly to Judge Brooks. We have a forensic certificate verifying the footage is unaltered. Julian nodded. Anna took a deep breath. That's not all. I also filed for a direct confrontation. Claudia has been summoned. The emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning. She knows. She must. The press is catching on. A few reporters from the New Herald called, but I declined to comment. Julian was silent. Then, after a moment, he said softly. This time. I'll look her in the eyes. That evening, Anna called Julian again. Evan just sent me a text thread he recovered from his old phone. This could destroy Claudia. Send it to me. Moments later, Julian's phone buzzed. On the screen was a screenshot of a conversation between Claudia and Evan. Claudia, just leave the door open. I'll crank the AC so he thinks the hotel forgot to shut it. All you have to do is sleep like it's real. Evan, what if his kids see? Claudia, even better. Psychological impact. The kids will confirm it. Evan, what if he records it? Claudia, I'll say it's edited. Then leak fake texts. Don't worry. I control the narrative. Julian read it, eyes burning red, not from grief anymore, but from absolute clarity. Save it. Tomorrow, we release everything. The next morning. City Courthouse. The courtroom was more crowded than before. A few reporters sat at the back, not allowed to record but watching closely. Claudia arrived first, dressed in her usual business attire. Her expression remained composed, but this time, there was a flicker of unease. Julian entered next. He didn't look at Claudia. He looked straight at the bench. Judge Elena Brooks was present, her gaze sharper than at the first hearing. Anna opened the folder and began. Your Honor, we are submitting new evidence today that proves the plaintiff, Ms. Claudia Bennett, intentionally staged a false scenario to defame the defendant, Mr. Julian Walker, with the objective of gaining custody and manipulating media narratives. Judge Brooks raised an eyebrow. Ms. Morales, do you have specific evidence? Anna nodded. With your permission, we'd like to present visuals. She turned on the large screen behind the bench. The video played, Claudia and Evan lying in bed, dim lighting, door ajar. Then Irene's soft voice, Dad. Mom. Next came an audio recording of Claudia on a call with her media consultant. Claudia, I don't need him in jail. I need the public to hate him. I need the image of the suffering single mom. Judge Brooks sat back, thoughtful. I recognize that voice. Ms. Bennett, do you have a response? Claudia remained silent. Anna continued, we also have a notarized affidavit from Mr. Evan Brooks, confirming the hotel scene was orchestrated under Ms. Bennett's direction. Claudia's face tightened, her voice rising, lies. Evan's a disgruntled employee trying to ruin me. Brooks replied coldly, you'll have the opportunity to respond. Where is Mr. Morgan? Claudia said nothing. Julian had stayed silent the entire time, but now he stood up, his voice calm. I used to think I was weak for not fighting back. But I've realized something. I didn't want my kids to grow up remembering their father screaming at their mother in a courtroom. Judge Brooks stared at Julian for a long moment. Then she nodded. Ms. Bennett, given the new evidence, this court hereby suspends all prior rulings. Temporary custody is granted to Mr. Julian Walker. Furthermore, a formal criminal investigation will be opened into Ms. Claudia Bennett for defamation, falsifying evidence, and psychological manipulation of minors. Claudia stood up, shouting, No. I'm the victim. You're making a mistake. Brooks responded coldly, you may appeal. But starting today, you are prohibited from contacting either child for the next 12 months. Julian sat back down and exhaled. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, not from stress, but from release. Anna leaned over and whispered, we did it. He nodded. But deep down, he knew there were no winners or losers. Only the truth finally heard. On the way home, Julian received a text from his mother. Irene and Ethan are waiting for you. I made the braised fish all three of you love. He replied, on my way, Mom. Moments later, a message came from Anna. Media's shifting. Lily Adams just called again, wants to interview you. They're calling you a symbol of resilience against the weight of public bias. Julian smiled softly. For the first time in months, it wasn't forced. That afternoon, Julian stepped into his mother's house where his children had stayed through the storm. The front door opened, and golden sunlight poured through the windows, illuminating Irene and Ethan sitting at the table, waiting. They saw him. A second of silence. Then Ethan shouted, Daddy, and ran toward him, wrapping his arms around his waist. Irene stood up more slowly, walked over, and when she reached him, she too couldn't hold back the tears. She hugged him tightly and whispered, I told you. I knew you didn't do anything wrong. Julian crouched down and held them both. Teresa stood nearby, eyes red but smiling. I made the braised fish. Tonight, you three are eating it all, no leftovers. Yes, ma'am, Julian replied, his voice thick. Today, our family comes back to life. That night, the three of them sat around the table. Warm yellow light filled the dining room. Irene talked about school. Ethan excitedly asked about going on a camping trip like before. Julian just listened, smiling. He didn't need to say much. Just being there was enough. After dinner, once the children had fallen asleep, Julian stepped out onto the balcony and called Anna Morales. I wanted to thank you, he said. Anna chuckled. You don't need to. I was just doing my job. But. Julian. Yes. You're the first client who made me believe in this profession again. Me. I've been the most hated dad in the country for the past month. No, Anna said firmly. You're the father who knew when to stay silent, when to speak up, and who chose not to strike back with hate. Truth is, I almost became a monster. But you didn't. That's why you won. Julian said nothing more. But inside, for the first time in months, he felt something unfamiliar, peace. 3 days later, a special television segment aired, The Truth Behind the Media Curtain. Sitting in front of the camera wasn't Claudia. It was Julian. The host, Lily Adams, began. After all the chaos, today, the man once branded as a cheater and abuser, has been fully exonerated. Please welcome Mr. Julian Walker. Good evening, Lily, Julian nodded, his expression calm. I want to begin with this question, Lily said. Why didn't you respond more forcefully from the beginning? I used to think that if I spoke up too soon, people would say I was just making excuses. So I stayed silent. But in the end, that very silence was twisted against me. Now that the truth has come out, she continued, do you hold any hatred toward the person who tried to destroy you? Julian sat quietly for a few seconds, then replied. I don't seek revenge. I just want to live honestly, and be an example for my children. That simple sentence hit home with viewers. Lily nodded. Thank you for having the courage to stay true to yourself. The interview was shared thousands of times. News outlets across the country reprinted Julian's quote as a symbol of patience and moral clarity. I don't seek revenge. I just want to live honestly, and be an example for my children. Meanwhile, Claudia Bennett was formally placed under criminal investigation. The charges included defamation, evidence tampering, media manipulation, and causing psychological harm to minors. Evan Brooks, after fully cooperating as a witness, was granted immunity from prosecution. He submitted his resignation and relocated to Tucson to live with his mother. The city's Child Protection Services recommended long-term counseling for Irene and Ethan. At first, Julian declined, afraid it might cause his children further pain, but later realized that healing was part of loving. A week later, he took them to their first session. The therapist, Lucy Foster, smiled as they entered. "You must be Julian Walker." "Yes. These are my kids, Irene and Ethan. We're honored to support your family." Irene whispered to her father, "Dad, the doctor looks like Elsa." "She has healing magic," Julian replied, smiling. All three of them laughed. Not politely. Genuinely. 1 month later, Julian received a call from his former employer inviting him back to work. But he declined. "I'm working somewhere new," he told the HR director. "Where?" "At the city's child protection organization. I help single parents who've been slandered or unfairly lost custody." There was a pause on the other end. "I understand. Wishing you all the best." Julian hung up. He felt light. Not because he'd turned down a good job, but because he was finally living in alignment with who he truly was. That evening, in the old kitchen of the same house, Julian was cooking stir-fried broccoli with pork, one of Irene's favorites. Ethan was rummaging through an old toy box. On the wall, their old family photo still hung, but it no longer hurt to look at. Because now, in Julian's mind, new pictures were forming every day: a photo of his children hugging him in the courtroom, a photo of the family laughing at dinner, a photo Irene took of him washing dishes, captioned, "My superhero." Ethan ran over. "Dad! We have storytelling at school tomorrow. Can I tell a story about you?" Julian knelt down. "What story do you want to tell?" "That you're a hero. But without a cape." Irene jumped in, "And without superpowers. Just someone who didn't give up." Julian pulled both of them into his arms. "Yes. That's okay with me." No one was afraid of surprises anymore. Because now, peace itself was the most beautiful surprise of all. Truth can be hidden. Justice can be delayed. But if we stand firm, not with hatred, but with clarity and compassion, then light will return. Julian is proof that even an ordinary father can become a hero when he stands up for what's right and for his children. Despite being defamed, insulted, and stripped of everything, he refused to let vengeance guide him. This story reminds us, never give up on truth. Because truth is the foundation of trust.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.